HD2 Baltimore. The all-new Praise 106.1, celebrating Radio 1's 42nd anniversary.
Our Radio 1 family, our employees, their family members, our listeners, our viewers, our extended family.
And serving the African-American community for over 42 years. Giving our city just what we need right now. Baltimore's inspiration station, Praise 106.1.
From the Big Al Studio, Baltimore's #1 accident attorney.
Welcome to the Spirit in Mind broadcast with your hosts, Bishop C. Guy Robinson and Dr. Jonathan Shepard, where we explore faith and mental health perspectives on current affairs. Let's get into today's discussion with the Spirit in Mind.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be with you here on Spirit in Mind. You're listening to Dr. Jonathan Shepard here, who is in the studio by myself today. Bishop C. Guy Robinson's out there doing his thing as he pastors and as he is a wonderful workshop leader and clinician. And I'm just glad to be with you again on this Saturday afternoon. Man, let me tell you, thank you all for all the wonderful comments from the last show, the last previous shows, to be honest with you. We enjoy being here with you in Spirit and Mind. These 30 minutes that we're here with you literally change our lives and hopefully will change your life. We have been in some deep discussions and we want to make sure that you are doing well. There's so much going on in our world today that literally you need to have check-ins. And that is what this show is all about. We're about bringing real life issues, current topics, and making sure that your mental health is doing well with the spiritual application. Isn't that wonderful? And so with that today, we want to always check in and make sure that you know how to be able to reach out to us. You can reach out to me, drjonathanshepard.com. That's my website. You can go there if you're in need of some direct care services in the DMV area. That's right, District of Columbia or Maryland. I can connect you with those services, children, adolescents, adults, even geriatric population. All of us need help at this time. So if you're in need of those services, come on and reach out to me. Again, go to my website, drjonathanshepard.com, or you can go and check out Bishop C. Guy Robinson, as he is the pastor of the Tabernacle Church over there at 2100 West Baltimore. That's the west side of Baltimore. And you can go and check him out on Sundays or even midweek, or you can even go on Amazon and get his books, Critical Collaboration. And I'll guarantee you, you will enjoy it because as you read it, it will allow you to see the interconnection between faith and mental health. And so thank you all. Man, I tell you, all are already hitting me up on social media. Thank you, Marilyn Hinton Brown. Thank you, Juanita Henderson. Thank you, Cynthia Hackshaw. I'm so appreciative that so many of you all are joining in right now. So we're going to get ready to go into our topic. This is part 7, believe it or not, part 7. And we've been talking about transitions. And I know some of you all have been like, man, is it really that much when it comes to transitions? Absolutely it is, because we find ourselves in transitions literally every day. And if we don't know how to handle our transitions, it can be something terrifying. It can be something that can lead us in the wrong direction. So I'm ready to jump off today. And if you want to call in, come on, you can call in. You can join in with me. 443-380-2803. 443-380-2803. Would love to hear from you. Love to see how you're doing. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, James Green, for shout out and just letting you all know that please have a good afternoon. But let's get into our subject. So transitions. Now, one of the things that we've been talking about with transitions are the various zones that happen as you go through life. And those 3 zones are the familiar zone, the unfamiliar zone, and the growth zone. I'll say those again. The familiar zone, the unfamiliar zone, and the growth zone. And these are things that we find ourselves in as we go through the journey of life. Now, what I did this morning, even as I was preparing, I looked up the word zone, and it was so interesting as I looked at the definition of zone, because it talks about zones being a section of an area or territory created for a particular purpose. I'll say it again. A zone is a section of an area or territory that's created for a particular purpose. So there are specific zones in our lives. There are specific zones in our counties. Speed zone, right? So when there's a speed zone, you have to make sure that you are watching your speed in that zone. I don't know if anyone's ever gone through a school zone. You don't go through a school zone at 60 miles per hour. I hope not. They have that zone there because it has a specific purpose to make sure that our children and parents and families arrive safely into the school building and they don't want anybody driving through. So when you go through a zone, it's for a specific period of time to achieve a purpose. I hope you're hearing me on this. So when you have a zone or you're going through a zone in your life, it is to make sure that you're getting a particular lesson that God wants you to have. And so I thought about that today. I said, as you go through the various zones, the familiar zone, the unfamiliar zone, and the growth zone, there are lessons that are being learned in all three of those zones. And one of the interesting things about zones is that you could have multiple zones going on at the same time. Isn't that something? You don't have to just be in the familiar zone and be out of the growth zone or be out of the unfamiliar zone. So what I want to challenge you all today, and thank you, Mother Hattie Cobb is out there, such a great supporter. What I want to challenge you all is that look at the zones in which you're in, but also realize that zones are not just silos. There are times when you are in a zone and you will find yourself in a familiar situation, but also in an unfamiliar situation where you might find yourself growing at the same time. Wow. Let me think about this. Failure does not hold up the next lesson of our lives. I'll say that again. When we fail, it does not necessarily hold up the zone or the lesson that we're supposed to learn in that zone, and doesn't necessarily impede our progress from moving forward into another zone. I'm going to say that again and give an example with that. Multiple zones can occur at the same time, and that failure does not hold up that next lesson all the time, which is why we have so many people who will get overwhelmed by life's transitions. Let me give you an example. Again, I like to be vulnerable. So when I was in my third year of medical school, I failed my shelf exam for surgery. So in medical school, you have to go through rotations. There's 8 primary rotations that you go through, and there is a shelf exam that is associated with each rotation. And for some reason, surgery, well, I won't say for some reason, I know why, because I was waking up at 3:30 in the morning to be at the hospital at 5 a.m. to start work, and didn't get home to about 8 p.m. that night. So literally, I was working all that time, even as a medical student. And by the time I got home, I still had to study for that exam. I'm sure somebody out there know what that's like, that when you get home and you trying to still study, like, man, it's like all your energy is gone. And so I didn't really have time, proper ability to study or capacity to study like I wanted to. So I ended up failing the exam. And I actually failed the exam twice, you all. I failed that exam twice. Now, when you fail an exam twice in medical school, you actually can get kicked out. So by the time that I failed that exam the second time, I was on the verge of being kicked out, you all. It was not easy. It was not easy. And when I knew I had to take the rotation all over again, because when you fail the test twice, you literally have to take all 8 weeks all over again. Wow. And so as I was going through that time, I had to go to another hospital, take that rotation all over again. But here's my point. I was in my third year, and my fourth year of medical school is about to start, where I start applying for residencies. Now, I couldn't tell the people at the other places where I was applying for residency, hold up, let me finish my surgery rotation so I can concentrate on applying or concentrate on passing the surgery exam and still be able to apply for what was going to happen once I graduated from medical school. I hope you all caught that. I could not hold up the progress of me moving forward to move beyond medical school just because I had failed the test twice. So I found myself in a zone that crossed over. I found myself in a zone where I had to experience some failures, but I also was trying to grow too at the same time. And may I tell you, it was a hard place to be at, because as I'm looking at the people who are rotating through the surgery rotation that I had to repeat, there were people who were a year behind me, and they were looking at me like, well, why is he in here? Like, why, what did he do wrong? I don't know if anybody's been like that. I tell you, when you're in transition, people will look at you, people will stare at you, people will be like, well, what did they do wrong? Or what's going on with them? Or, why are they not able to achieve this? Man, I know what that's like. I feel you out there, because that's not a good feeling. But at the same time, as I was studying, I still had to get my applications out, because I believed that I was going to pass my exam. And yes, I did. But if I had not taken the time to still apply for the residency programs that were coming after I graduated from medical school and just focus in on the failure, I would not have had any place to go after I had completed or passed the exam. I want to tell you all out there today that some of you all are still so focused. Your mind is so overwhelmed by the failures of what has happened in your life that you can't even see the progression that God has for you. I get it. I've been there. All right. And even find myself there at times again. Because that's the interesting thing about transitions and these zones, that these zones are cyclical. They're not linear. They're cyclical. And you'll find yourself almost like in the stages of grief, bouncing back and forth, back and forth. You'll find yourself in a familiar zone, and then you'll stay familiar for about 3 or 4 months, and then it becomes unfamiliar again, because it's time for you to move on. It's time for you to progress. And so I could not just sit there and wallow when I had to take that exam for the third time. And when I got in that room the third time, I was like, okay, God, look, we're not taking this exam again. And sure enough, I passed the exam. I passed it. I went ahead, and I could not even talk about the exam, to be honest with you, as I was interviewing. It was so interesting during that time, because I was studying for the exam, and I still had interviews happening for what was going to happen next in my life. So I couldn't go into those interviews talking about, well, you all, I'm just really going through right now. I got this exam, and, I'm not sure if you all really want me. I'm not sure if you all really want a failure. Man, I know what that's like. And I can almost feel you all out there as I'm talking in social media land. I'm talking here on radio, because there get times where you even want to carry that baggage over with you. And I want to help you to separate that. Yes, you could be in an unfamiliar zone, crossing over into the growth zone, but you don't have to announce to everybody while you're in the growth zone that, hey, I'm carrying this baggage with me and how I failed. Trust me, they'll see it. Trust me, they'll know that you passed it. You don't have to make the announcement that you're going through a failure right then and there. And I get it. Some of the songs out there, some of the gospel songs, I don't look like what I've been through. I get it. Some of us do look like what we've been through, but some of us don't look like what I've been through. And God, I hope I don't look like what I've been through, because, it's been a lot. And as you transition through this, I want to help the people. I want to help you all to know that multiple zones can occur at the same time. Man, I hope this is helping you out there. Come on, you can give me a call. Thank you, those who are hitting me up on social media, letting me know that this topic is blessing you. Our number here is 443-380-2803. 443-380-2803. And so what I'm going to do for the next minutes that I have now, I'm going to shift because I want to talk about what happens as you go through the transition. What are the things that has to be a part of your arsenal? What are the things that you have to do as you're going through the transition? And that one thing I'm going to talk about today, I got 3 points, and we'll cover them over the next 3 weeks as I work with Bishop Robinson. But the first point, and I'm going to stick here and stay here, all right, is we have to look at our company. We must change our company when we're going through transition. Now, Shepherd, what do you mean your company? I'm talking about your peers. I'm talking about the people who are in your life, the people who will run to you, who will no longer be available as you go through the transition. We have to examine our company. And a company does not necessarily just mean the people. We have to look at the things that are in our life. We have to look at the places that we go. We have to look at even the jobs and organizations that influence what we do. That as we go through the transitions, as you're finding yourself in that zone, and let me tell you something about jobs and people, they will provoke you to go through these zones. They sure will. And so that's why you got to make sure that you are in the right place. Because as you walk through these different zones, if you don't have the right company or you don't have the right people in your circle, they'll kill you as you go through the zone. And I don't mean literally, physically. I mean, I would hate that would happen, but literally it could kill your dream. It'll kill your motivation. It'll kill your drive. Absolutely. And thank you, Diane Sanders and Sarita Watson. Thank you. So we got to make sure that our peers, our company is in line because the people you will run to will no longer be available. Isn't that amazing? I watch as I've gone through some transitions. Now I've watched how certain people have fallen off and certain things just change. I didn't even ask for it to change. But just as I was going through the transition and as I was going through the growth zone, I don't know if anybody's out there grown plants and other places, not places, but other things, different types of plants. That's what I want to say. And as you watch those leaves grow and sprout up, you see how they change. You see how they drop off the different leaves as they grow and they sprout up. So what happens as you grow, your company will change. If your company continues to help you to produce the same results, it's something that you need to check out and say, hey, I don't know if this company is who should be with me. If your company is producing the same results as you and there's no elevation present, I would check that company out. Somebody said something to me recently. It said, elevation is contagious. Let me tell you, and really I should type that in for those on social media. Elevation is contagious. That thing, when my friend told me that this past week, that thing was so powerful because it told me that the company that I keep, that even when I'm going through a transition, if I'm going through it appropriately, if I can use that word, that the other people around me will even feel some of the effects. Isn't it something that you could be around somebody who is getting blessed, or you can be around somebody who's getting cursed, and then you find yourself in that same position? I know we talk about the positive a lot, but it's the same thing negatively. If you got friends with a lot of drama, you find yourselves a lot of drama. You got friends who don't like to do drama. Typically, you don't like to do drama. And that's what I'm telling you, is that look for the change in your company. If your company is always comfortable making the same salary, they're always comfortable with going to the same vacation spot, always going to Orlando, can never go nowhere else. Like, man, come on, let's switch it up. Always eat at the same places for special occasions, never can go somewhere else. Now, again, I'm not knocking, places that are consistently good. I love to go to a good eatery. I love to visit certain places that I know are going to produce, but it shouldn't be the same thing every time. It shouldn't become predictable. So you have to be able to watch yourself as you're going through transition. Many of the times of why we are going through transition is because we're not in a place where we should be at. And God wants to move us a little bit further, and He wants to make sure that we are learning the lessons in that zone while we are carrying out His purpose. Remember the definition of zone. Each zone has each particular lesson and purpose associated with it. And so there may be multiple purposes, maybe multiple lessons, but if you get stuck, if you get stagnated, or if you find yourself producing the same results year after year after year, then that's something you need to check out. One of the scariest places to be, and I've told Bishop Robinson this before, is to be in the same place that you were in the year previously. That's scary, you all. I don't like to be in the same place where I was the year before. Now, does that mean I keep changing? I keep changing my address. No, I'm not saying those type of things. People are literal. And so I have to make sure I'm very clear as to what I'm saying. I'm not saying you to change your house or change your address every single year or even change your job. Because when you do stuff like that, people don't think that you are consistent. People kind of, they look at you a little weird because you keep changing. But what I am saying, though, is that you need to make sure that you're looking at where you are in life and moving towards your goals and purpose. Now, yes, there may be some years where you may not move as fast as others, but there should be some progress. There should be some movement. So let me tell you, I'm looking at this challenge as when you change your company, because the challenge is, how do you deal with isolation and loneliness? Yeah. When your company changes, when the people who you're normally in your circle, you'll find yourself isolated. You'll find yourself lonely. And you'll be looking like, man, why am I the only one going through? Or, man, did God really tell me to do this? Or, how come I'm the only one who can handle this particular problem and no one else is facing it? And you know how we do. We feel isolated. But let me tell you, isolation is not a bad thing. Isolation many times is a place for us to settle down so we can get our thoughts together and make sure that we can move forward. You should not stay isolated all the time. But when you find yourself in a place where it feels isolated, it's okay. But make sure that you're getting the lesson, getting the purpose that God has for you while you're in that zone, while you're in that isolation. Let me tell you something. There needs to be a relationship audit. I'm even hesitant to say it because it's hard for us to do. Yeah, we got to check our friends out. Just like we have an audit for our income and our taxes, and hopefully for those who are leading in your family. You should have family goals. You should have, if you're a leader of a non-for-profit, you should have a goal for that. But you should be checking out even the people who are in your personal circle. Like, hey, are we lining up? Are our goals, complementary of each other? Now, everybody don't have to have the same goals. Absolutely not. No, absolutely. That's kind of boring to have people in your life who are all the same. But we should be truthful about our friendships. Think about this. Sports teams bring in former players who won championships to sharpen the mindset of players and not the physical skill set. I'll say that again. Sports teams, they bring in former players who won championships to sharpen their mindset, not necessarily their physical skill set. Why do they do that? Because they know that former players don't have the same type of skills like the ones who are on the current team now, but there's a mindset that must be developed. There's a winning mindset. You could have so many wonderful skills and potential inside of you, but if you don't have the right mindset, you won't achieve your fullest potential. And that's why we stress this on this program. That's why the two marry so well together, faith and mental health, because faith is real, But many of us don't activate our faith because we don't have that championship mindset that even when I'm going through, even when I am isolated, even when it doesn't feel good, even when I'm in the unfamiliar zone, I can still overcome and make it. Wow. That's why we stress this on these programs, because we want to make sure that all of us are getting through. I'm winding down here. Man, I done got excited myself. Isaiah chapter 54, go back and read that. It is such a wonderful passage, and so many of us quote passages and verses from that. But it really talks about how the Lord will enlarge your territory, even when your friend circle is shrinking. And the thing he dropped on me is that even when your friend circle is shrinking, he's replacing that with favor. He's replacing that with influence. So don't be worried about your friend circle shrinking. God is giving you more favor. He's giving you more influence as he enlarges your territory. Let me tell you, transitions, this has been a powerful series. Go back and listen. Go back and make sure you listen to part 1 through 6, because we are making sure that as we prepare for 2024, that we will be ready for whatever zone that we find ourselves in. Spirit and Mind, family, we love you. Bishop Robinson will be back with me in the studio next week. I tell you, we're going to continue to deal with these transitions. No, we're not ready to drop it yet. It's going to be a part 8, because we want to make sure that people are moving through life and making sure that their purpose are being achieved. Reach out to us, drjonathanshepard.com, in need of direct care services. Reach out to Bishop C. Guy Robinson, CGR Ministries. You can go to his YouTube or Facebook page, even IG, and we'd love to be able to communicate with you all. Thank you for all the love today. I really appreciate it as I was holding it down today. And we'll look forward to see you next week on Spirit and Mind.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at Spirit in Mind, and we're also on Instagram at Spirit in Mind Live. Join us next time for a new episode of Spirit in Mind.
Yo, what's up? I'm gonna keep it real, you know?